Hey everybody, welcome to the Dyno Joe Mods channel. Today we're going to do some mods on the Stihl Ms881. In this video I'm going to show you a real quick teardown, machine work, porting, reassembly, then they're going to go on the dyno. Alright, we'll get started with the wrap saw. Take this doohickey off, that out of the way, take the handle off. I like using these food containers for nuts and bolts and stuff. Size carb. Oh yeah, fuel. Big old carb. Put that over here. There it is. It's a big old cylinder. Let's take the muffler off. Egan Performance saws straight shot. The other 881's getting a bark box. Alright, let's pull the cylinder now. Alright, shove the intake boot through. Remove the cylinder. See why I like the Dominator. It's a real nice oil retention. Take these rings off. Wipe it all down. Squish measurements without the gasket. Base plate made with the gasket so we can machine the cylinder. There you have it. It's the intake port down here. Those are the fresh air ports or strato ports up there. The boot has a divider. You don't clean the piston when you go to lay out your porting lines. You mirror your marker. You don't want a bunch of junk falling in there. Now we'll talk about making a base plate. All right, what we have here, piece of 1/2 inch thick, 4-inch piece of aluminum. We'll just center the gasket up best we can. Mark it. 5mm studs to make these plates. We'll center punch those holes and drill them out to 4.2mm and tap them. Alright, we'll check the squish without a base gasket. Some 32 thousandths rosin core solder. Put it together, twist it up, fold it over like a horseshoe. Couple dabs of grease on the top of the piston, but as long as both of them are right on top of the wrist pin, that'll give you a real good side to side squish reading. Slide the cylinder on. Alright, we'll roll it over top dead center. Rock it back and forth until you don't feel any resistance left. Bring it back down to the bottom. Pull it out and we'll measure it. Pull out our handy dandy micrometer. Just over 25 thousandths without a gasket. It's on the flywheel side. We'll double check PTO side. Same 25 thousandths on the PTO side. So you could do a gasket delete on the 881. The gasket's just about 18 thousandths. Next, what we'll do is we'll set the cylinder on and we'll just make sure that the piston is not going to free port at top dead center. Well, you can see plenty of room to lower the cylinder. That skirt's not going to expose the bottom of the exhaust port to the crankcase at top dead center. Alright, we'll pull the clip off, pull the clutch off, put the degree wheel on. I think you guys will like this. Try and hold it top dead center. Zero it. Check the intake. 79.7. 79.3. Alright, so that's what we'll call the intake. We'll call it 79 to make it easy. That's with no base gasket. Look at the exhaust. Exhaust is well open, and we back it up, right there. It's first light. 96.9, we'll call that 97 on the exhaust. 121. Now what I'll do is I'll double check these with a ring in the cylinder. I'll show that real quick. Make sure to wipe your ring off too. That way you can mark it. When you slide a ring in the cylinder, always make sure to put the notch where you can grab it with a pick or something if you forget it's in there, and cycle the cylinder or piston all the way around the cylinder. Go to bottom dead center. Then we go backwards to raise the ring up to make sure our time's right. Yep. The exhaust side, just the exhaust side transfers open right at that 121. That's right where the ring shows it opening. These transfers are tipped. The exhaust side opens first, and then it's tapered. The roof's tapered. Slowly open from the exhaust side all the way to the intake. The intake's about 5 degrees later. So there's 5 degrees from the intake side fully open to the exhaust side fully open. Yep. 126 is where the intake side transfers start to open. Now, what do we want to do? All right, now we're going to mount the cylinder up on our plate we made. All right, the cylinder's all mounted up. I'll take it over to the small 4-jaw lathe. We'll take 30 thousandths out of the band. Then we'll take 28 to 30 thousandths off the base. That'll give us 25 to 27 thousandths squish. All right, let's go over to the lathe. Here's the old 4-jaw. This is where I cut all the squish at. And I think it's an early 1940s model. Axelson. I'm going to have to back you up a little bit so I can put the indicator on. This is 1/2 of 1/1000th test indicator. So each line is 1/2 of 1/1000th. Not putting much force on these at all. Just trying to dial things in. Not there, so we'll push this down. Raise this up. Push this down. Raise this up. Reach in as far to the top as we can. And we have to dial up that side of the bore. And you got to keep going back and forth until you're 0, 0 at both ends. Pretty much up to the top. I like to put a little stop there so I know where to hit each time.
This'll do.
That'll do. That'll do. All right, let's see how it is. Spin it. Oh yeah, that looks good. All right, let me in there.
Okay. They'll think we have 4 hands.
Yeah, they'll think we have 4 hands. All right, got that dialed in. Got that dialed in. Touch off the tool. All right, we'll set the tool. This piece of paper is about 3,000, so I know when it doesn't slide anymore that I'm within 3,000. Right there. Set my indicator. All right, we'll touch off at the bottom. Back that off, back that off. Everything has room. Nothing's gonna crash. All right, we're gonna take 35 thousandths out now. 25. Square corner of a straight edge all the way down in the bore to make sure that I have the diameter large enough. Because you want that cut slightly larger diameter than what the bore is. Otherwise, when the piston gets hot and expands, it will hit that area we just cut deeper. All right, I'll take this cylinder off. That way I can utilize this setup for 881 number 2. Because I use the small lathe to cut the base. All right, let's take a peek at the cylinder, what we just cut. That's the squish band area, combustion chamber cut. We ended up taking 35 thousandths out. We'll set it up on the little lathe and we'll cut the base. All right. That'll work there. All right, took 30 off that. Now I need to take 30 off the extension. I'll take this scale, same thing, make sure that our cut's deep enough that this can sit down in the case right. Now these, I'll have to grind this little lip here out. That way it can sit down. All right, what we got is a diamond grit stone burr. And we'll use that to get rid of the plating around here. And then I'll come back through. This is a single cut carbide burr just to get this lip lower than the surface. You can see this lip. I need to get this lip lower than the base of the cylinder. I'll just take a straight edge. Make sure that doesn't catch anywhere. I guess we're at about 27. We'll rock it back and forth. 25. 81.6. So after taking 35 off the base, exhaust is right there. 98.7, so we'll call that 99. Right, I'm going to set the exhaust at 98. I'm going to set the transfers at 123 flat across. See what we have for width. Pull it out. We'll mark it. It's not going to be raising it much, but this will help reshape it too. With the ring pin on the clutch side, on the exhaust side, it gets kind of tricky when you're trying to widen the exhaust. So on this one, we'll stick around 65%. Set the width. This is our 65% exhaust port. One of my favorites. Is a little aggressive, but it gets the job done. All right, you can see the exhaust ports roughed in. Now we'll work on the transfers. All right, a little more to go. All right, I think that'll work for the uppers. We're not going to do anything with the intake on this one. I'll blend all that in with the sandpaper roll. Has a nice arch on the roof. Didn't raise it much. We're going real light on these, I guess you could say. They're going to go right into tree service work, long bars, all day long, stumping, everything. So we're not trying to push them too high in the RPM. trying to get that pull out of them. All right, we'll try this angle. Put a fresh piece of 80 grit on a split mandrel to polish the exhaust, smooth the exhaust. I don't get too awful carried away with the polishing. By the time this is wore down a little bit, it slicks. That's it. That's all that's needed. Nice and smooth and steady. And then I'll put bevels on everything and we'll be ready to clean it and put it back together. You can see the uppers are worked. The exhaust. The other side. I'm not doing anything with the intake, not doing anything with the strato ports on this one. We'll see how it does on the dyno first. Alright, I'm going to put some bevels in and then we'll be ready to go. Just 150 grit, diamond, eBay, cheap, abrasive ball is all I use to put bevels in. Alright, all the bevels are in. I beveled this area of the transfer entrance. With the bevels, you don't want to go too big because if you go huge with them, you are actually changing the port timing. So just nice, tight, crisp, smooth bevels is all you need. You can kind of see them. The extra shiny part around the port. Right there, you can see it on the transfer on the right side. Exhaust. Alright, we got everything clean. Both surfaces are wiped off. Now we can start putting it back together. Rings on. Like to wipe them off first. There's that one. There's that one. Clean off your sealant applicators. I've been using Hylamar Blue. This stuff has been working pretty well. Easy to put on, easy to use. Now this stuff never really sets and never really hardens, so it will wash away if you get a smidge in a transfer port or inside a little bit, but you still want to be careful to make sure, try not to do that. But that is one of the nice things about this, is it does kind of wash away with the transfer mix. Because I've taken some saws apart that have had regular and had big old globs of it in the transfer ports and whatnot, and had them all but blocked off, you know, with a glob of sealant in there. Switching to the other applicator. All right, and that's already skinned over like it needs to. I like to smear just a drop of oil around, mostly on the exhaust port, but I do get it all the way around the cylinder up as high as I can. Those are a little bit of a pain in the butt with only that 1/2 of the extension, but we were able to get the rings popped in there. Get all of our bolts set in. Get the cylinder down. Keep pressure down. Wiggle it back and forth. Get all your bolts close while you're pushing down on it. You never want to lift the cylinder once you have it seated. Technically, it's okay with this type of sealant, but most of them it's not. So it's a good practice to stay out of. Hit your final torque numbers. Make sure it goes roundy. Looky there. We're doing good, guys. We're doing good. All right, now we'll finish putting it together. Now, after you cut the base or do any machine work on them, the muffler is going to sit lower. So you want to make sure to, when you tighten it, pull up on it the best you can. That way everything lines up good. All right, we're here at the welding bench. We're going to open up the recoil side of the 881 cover. Just put probably a 1/2 inch hole here, and then connect the two. So it'll be a decent size area. And then I'll weld on, well, TIG braze, one of my medium wide stainless steel deflectors. All trimmed up, fit it on there just right. Alright, we got the hole opened up. It's about 1 inch long, about 3/8 of an inch tall, something like that. There we go. That won't fall off. There's not going to be enough escaping out the back to even worry about it. Do it with our wire brush. Shape it a touch more. Not too bad. Alright, we'll blow it out, put it on, see how it does. There we go. What do you think about that? Let's see what the results are. 11.6, 11.58. Alright, here we have it. Smoke settling in the shop. We're going to talk about the results. Both of them super close. This is about 3% here. Difference in two different saws, difference in hand porting both of them. Both of them have very similar recipes. In the cutting zone, this 9400 RPM is where both of them line up. That's about where this blue line, the straight shot saw, that's about where it peaks anyway. This other one peaks a little further back, but they're up about 25% at 9400, and both of them maintain at least 15% gain above stock all the way down. All these numbers are taken at 9,400 RPM. The distance between these two saws right here, that's about 3%. So it's not a huge difference between the two saws. Alright, here's the wrap saw. There's the half wrap saw. This is the stock saw. This is 1.7% between the two peaks, from 11.65 horsepower to 11.85, which you'll see on the graph. 10.3 peak for the stock. So both of those saws are up 1 full horsepower where the stock peak is. And then they just keep pulling. Same thing with the torque. They're up 1.5 foot-pounds over the stock saw in torque in the cutting range. Just thought you guys might like to see these numbers laid out like that. Full wrap saw with the straight shot, half wrap saw with the bark box, stock. Both